infiltrated the Labor Hall, the central staging ground of the Forged Masters, the Colas Coalition, the Church of the Machine Hand, the Silver Tyrants, the Lower District. You broke into their prison, where they had been holding quite a number of your friends and your associates. You broke them and others out, freed them, fighting the Silver Guardians until you could all make it out in one piece. But as you fled through burning streets. A riot had broken out, and it burned through the roads and alleyways, and through a number of lives, especially as the Silver Guardians' violent response fanned the flames. Quickly, you returned to safety, almost immediately setting back out to assist with the catastrophe unfolding in the streets of the Lower District, even when you were advised to discretion by the Polythreme Guard, and were told that they would not be able to protect you outside of pretending to be looking for you. Following the riots, the very same night and a few days following, you assist where you can, temporarily using Red's magnificent mansion as a relief station, avoiding the reach of the Silver Guardian. During the first night and well into the day after, as you help the citizens on the ground, healing injuries and burns, the district is still in a state of unrest. The Silvers prove themselves largely occupied, moving through the streets without much regard to searching their surroundings for you, as they respond to repeated breakouts of smaller embers of the unrest. With the assistance of a large number of people you helped and continue helping, you have no issue avoiding the Silvers and moving unseen to the eyes of the Forge Master. Despite your need to remain hidden, the work you do immediately following the riot, both by yourself and the help Red in particular has rallied through the Songspire College and the Temple of Vanitas, have an immense impact on the survival of thousands of those affected by these skirmishes and the fires. For a few days after the incident, the Silver Guardians show their increased presence on the streets, where before alone they now patrol in groups and seemingly with a greater sense of urgency. The mood as a whole of everyone in the Lower District begins to shift. If the situation before was described as a powder keg waiting for a spark, then in the days immediately after the riots, the powder keg would also have been at the edge of an active volcano. The first change in the behavior of the Silver Constructs came after 2 days. A lightning train carrying supplies and aid for the city arrived from Antog, an unexpected and unprecedented gesture to many of the Lower Districts, who only weeks before had still been told of the possibility of war with the very same city. But the train never entered the station inside. It stopped well before then, in the outside town before the walls, Nicaria. All the efforts to distribute the supplies came then from there, and the other towns close to the areas affected by the riots and the previous catastrophe from before you returned to Polythreme, who the supplies were originally intended for. Due to this outside help, a rift has formed in the minds of many during these days, as aid efforts largely remained unaided by the Silver Constructs. Conversely, help from the Mediocre district in the form of the old Polythreme Guard escorting these vital supplies was actively hindered. A sense of isolation has formed around the governance in the lower district, where before the rift had largely been between the two upper districts above and those living in their shadows. Now it seemed that even those in worse circumstances outside the walls and similarly on the ground, similarly in the shadows, have distanced themselves from the core of Polythreme. Thus, the Silver Guardians retreated partially from the burn section in the lower district. Help and aid were more freely allowed to pass, and lines of silvers formed checkpoints and perimeters around the affected district. The only exception to this is a large congregation of silvers keeping a close eye on the entrance to the mines and the remains of the labor hall. During the rest of this first week, your hands remain busy. Droves of people from the affected areas, and most prominently from the internal slums near the mines, evacuate the damaged areas, lured partially by the promises of help and a better start in the towns outside the walls. Almost immediately, your supplies begin to stretch thin as a result, with the towns outside wholly unprepared to accommodate for such a sudden influx of people. The population of 60-odd thousand people outside the walls almost doubles within the span of a few days. And despite your many improvements to hierarchy and infrastructure, much of the four outside towns' day-to-day operations grind to a halt. Evelyn, you mentioned that you had more funds to allocate.
Yes.
How much of these funds would you allocate?
How much do I think I need to allocate? To be able to at least stabilize the new influx.
With this influx sort of spreading out to two of these towns, you probably face a challenge of actually being able to fully estimate how much you'd likely need. Can you give me an intelligence?
8.
I don't know if there would be any skill that would be more sensible in terms of
Yeah,
logistics.
probably just, yeah.
Possibly survival, but I think intelligence is probably higher. So you can choose between those two.
So that's a 23.
Okay. For immediate assistance, for a quick sort of stabilization of the situation, you'd probably need to allocate about 20,000.
Alright, I will fork over 20,000.
Mm-hmm.
Of my tucked away funds.
Responding quickly and in person, you manage to divide the newly formed leaders of Mykarian into the other towns, with little resistance to your offered help. And you yourself undertake a large portion of directing the sorely needed construction effort. I'm assuming that at this point, as you know, all hands are sort of needed, the rest of the party are all following still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there's anything I can do to get us, like, discounts to make that 20,000 go further, I guess I can do that.
You can give me a... I don't think it would be performance, just persuasion heck.
$27.
Okay. with especially the connections you already have, with the efforts you've already sort of rallied, it's fairly easy to you to sort of consolidate a lot of these organizations that you've now made connections with in order to
Everything
pull
goes
together
smooth.
on the same string. Yeah. Silas, you in particular make sure that Kaga and Dalmarn, including their families, find safety, shelter, and work in Clifford. Their involvement with you and the consequences of their own curiosity, or at least Dalmarn's curiosity, mean that for the time being there is very little security for them within the wall. In this time, you also make contact with Sabal and Dalpik, who fortunately were spared from both the purview of the machine heart as well as the destruction of the riots themselves. While they would be grateful to your offered help, they elect to stay inside the lower district, continuing their work as usual, with the only difference being the occasional stay in one of the Clifford taverns, where all four of your friends managed to convene. Red, during your continued help to the tired saint's great work, you notice more and more since you're sort of looking out for it. People walking around with the altered symbol of the machine heart. Especially outside the city, these symbols are now displayed more openly, pinned to cloaks and worn as amulets. And it's during this time you begin to look more closely into finding out more regarding the Silver Saint.
Yeah, I'll ask, assuming that, like, Silas's friends are around at some point. I'll kind of, like, bring it up with them. And if Silas is there, great.
In terms of sort of basic information, gossip and such that you receive from the workers and the people that are carrying around these items, as far as you strike up conversations, the Silver Saint to many represents what drew most of them to the Church of the Machine Heart. The sort of idea of the core of Polythreme, the lower district, working as a whole. The workers standing together. Before, of course, this sort of recent change happened that gave the lower district considerable amounts of power, but not particularly in the hands of the people, more so in the hands of the Forge Master.
Mm.
Even though many seem to subscribe to this idea of the Silver Saint, it appears that not many really actively know of the Silver Saint themselves, or claim to have met the Silver Saint.
Fair enough.
Near the end of this first week, with all of your efforts, things start to slow down. Even though many problems do persist and take further weeks and mountains of effort to resolve, you find yourself finally with some space to breathe. You are currently in the eastern town, Clifford, facing the mountains. The sun has long set on the other side of Polythreme, and the cold air is driving people huddled around fires and into homes where available. The magnificent mansion is largely cleared of people needing immediate assistance, but a few harsher critical cases remain, thus leaving you currently holed up in a wooden shack from where you had been directing the day's effort. As the day's work is coming to an end, you receive word from a messenger that Vidar is in Clifford and on his way towards you. When the vampire enters the shack, clad in a flowing cloak of crimson and gold, very clearly wearing his armor underneath, he looks as out of place as one could imagine. A large section of his cloak close to the ground is caked in mud and stains already, though it appears as if Vidar placed very little heat to the dirt, creeping up his immaculate appearance. He gives you a curt bow, mustering you with Hyla. Ellen, Evenfall, it would appear there is no leaving you unattended in Polythreme without some major incident.
Feel like this isn't entirely our fault behind this one.
There is something I want to let you know, considering you may find yourself soon up against the forces of the Silver Construct. Before you had returned to Polythreme, during your time in the underground, you sent someone to warn me of a change in the silver you had extracted from one of these constructs.
Yeah.
A decay that released massive amounts of radiant necrotic energy. I'm sure you've made similar connections to our recent encounter with the Dominion, as I have. But there is something else. At the time your sample of the silver decayed, the sample you have left in my possession did not. In fact, several months later, and the sample remains as the day I received it. At the time, I thought little of it, but out of curiosity and our recent skirmish, I decided to investigate further. I succeeded in triggering its decay within days by simply moving the silver beyond the city bounds. It also begins decaying if placed in an extraplanar space, such as any container attached to a demiplane. This means, as long as it remains within Polythreme, no such decay takes place. Clearly, or we would likely see the silver construct experiencing this very decay. This also gives us a robust reasoning as to why the Silver Guardians remain within the bounds of the city walls. Venturing past them would likely carry harrowing consequences for them. I'm yet unsure what conclusion to draw from this, but it is certainly a development you should be aware of.
Yeah.
And there is another development going into effect tomorrow. I bring you an early warning, though I expect you would hardly need it. I can see you are well supported here. Vidar's hand vanishes in his crimson cloak, producing a small stack of papers he holds to you. I expect you may feel a measure of disappointment or betrayal at the Council of Polythreme for this, but be assured none of them were in favor of it. This comes entirely from the pressure of the Forge Masters, and it appears to be a bad time to test them. None from the Medial or Upper District will act on these charges, least of all the guard, but you should remain vigilant of your back nonetheless.
Finally.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Huck's picture is the best.
Hux is also worth the most.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Listen, we need maybe some more funding.
Yeah, true.
God damn it. You really
Can we
want
turn
me
you
to
in,
go
Hux?
back to hiding?
I didn't do
Fine, I'm gonna be Saleik.
I love it. I love it.
Oh yeah, the names! Evelyn's names, all of them.
Well, it was only to be expected, I suppose. All things considered.
I look so cool.
You really do.
Yeah, you do.
You look the coolest of us all.
And you're worth the most.
Yeah.
For
That's because
the
they know
time,
nothing about you.
Probably because they're
Yeah.
wizards.
I shall return to the upper district. If there is anything that comes up, I shall contact you, or you know where to find me.
Yeah. Would I be able to get access to the Vidar? Down there?
You may, of course, have access to the dards.
Right.
Was there anything in particular you needed access for?
Well, we got ambushed by the Dominion pretty decisively, as you recall. I'm thinking about trying to develop weaponry that could ambush them should they try that again. Seems the Vidar might be the right size for that.
A prudent idea, though of course anything attached to the outside of the airship will need to be built to withstand the force at which it travels.
Yeah. I'm hoping that like Vent could carry it, and then he just pops up, out of the hole, shoots whatever, and then pops back down. I don't know. I'll think about it. We'll see what happens.
Potentially an option. The hatch is designed to open even under the pressure of the wind.
Okay. I
Though
like.
I will largely be busy, perhaps
Yeah.
we can talk.
Thanks.
And if there's nothing else, Vidar turns around and leaves.
Dang, Huxley, we gotta turn you in. But seriously though, if we turn you in, couldn't you just teleport out? Oh, they'd probably take your items though.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Do you think they would have a tree?
A tree? In the prison? I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
Highly unlikely.
Yeah.
Or it could turn into like a mouse.
I might.
All things
they-
considered, they're
they know
probably
you're shape
somewhat
changer.
aware of your capabilities.
Yeah.
And I believe we did shift forms a few times while we were down, letting our allies of sorts go. So they probably would be prepared to continue in that situation.
Yeah, they probably trap you in some silly place where wizards just ran away from you all the time.
Or just work on maintaining some form of keeping you unconscious, something along those lines.
Yeah. Ooh. Should we put out wanted posters for the Forge Masters? Just to give them what for?
Would be funny.
Maybe not wanted posters, but certainly if you would like to work on your own propaganda against them, I support that.
Yeah, right, sure. Yeah. I think they're doing well enough on that themselves.
Yes, but people always like having a rallying force, something to gather behind, a concept, a phrase, an expression.
Yeah, true. Phrases. Yeah, I gotta figure out if this Silver Saint lady's real. See if what she's up to.
The only time prior to any of this that I can recall hearing about her was down with that rather insane individual down in the mines.
But he talked like he had actually met her.
Correct.
Which he
But-
was insane, though. I mean, yeah.
Right. So that was the only time that I've personally heard of anything prior to it starting to spread in the lower city. Hux, I doubt you've heard anything, as you only spent minimal time out and about in the lower city, if I understand that correctly, before we headed out.
Yeah, like a few months.
Have any of your friends talked about a Silver Saint, Silas?
I guess not that I know of, right, Beggar? Or did they mention it?
You heard probably similar to what Red has heard recently, asking around rumors. And some of your friends even have these icons. The ones where the original iconography of the machine heart is held by Silver Hand. But your understanding of it would be similarly basic as Red, that it's a sort of almost a schism in this Church of the Machine Heart, where some are sort of holding on to the older ideals of it than what it has become in actuality.
Even if she's not really a real person, the movement has to have a leader, or somebody that's important. Maybe we could find whoever that is. And do we know why the riot started in the first place?
I haven't had much time to look into it myself.
Was weird
Obviously,
timing.
I can only assume to some extent that it could have been triggered by a sudden rush of the silvers heading into the labor hall.
I guess, but surely
But
big
it
crimes have
seems
to happen.
more prepared and somewhat put together. That I can't imagine that we specifically triggered it. If anything, I can only imagine that we triggered it earlier than it was already planned, as they took advantage of a situation.
Could be worth trying to figure out.
Quick question out of character.
Mm-hmm.
Have we ever heard Red's full name before? Before seeing these posters? Just asking.
Yes. Yeah, I think you have.
Because I don't remember. That's what I wanted to make sure. I just
I
didn't
think he's,
forget
like,
something.
said it.
Evelyn's known it, so...
He said it like as he's shooting somebody for some reason a few
Right.
times.
So
This is
whether
why
or
they call me
not-
Retribution.
Right. Whether or not you heard that or not.
Yeah.
Mhm, yeah, I don't know if I would have put one and one together, just
Mhm.
or two and two together. I think it's the English word for that, the English expression for that. Okay, but yeah, it's just me as a player. I wasn't sure if we ever got that because I was reading that but
And that's how
the
we
last
see
name we
it
never
signed.
got, but I feel like it's just because his mom is probably one of the butlers, so it's probably
Yeah.
that's how it works, right? So, okay, sure.
That's just the
So it's not
Lovecraft
like
thing.
it's not like the super huge reveal or something. It's just
No.
okay. Cool,
And
cool.
if you've ever seen him sign like things, he signs his full name too.
Okay.
Mhm.
Cool, cool.
I don't know if there's anything you've ever signed.
I think we
Actually,
like
never.
signed for a tournament or something, like our
Yeah.
names.
Yeah, but I think you. Yeah. I think you've signed your names then.
I probably signed a receipt at some store or something.
As a night rolls around and you rest. Huxley. As night falls in Clifford, as you lay down to rest on a bed much less comfortable than the mansion or Quartermain's, and your eyelids fall shut, flashes of light shoot across your vision. Your eyes snap open, only showing the same darkened room you had laid to rest in earlier. Again, you close your eyes, thinking into the inky black darkness behind your eyelids. And again, you find light. Flashes, images of a burning forest. You hear this deafening roar of the flames. Black smoke blanketing the sky and reaching out in whirling tendrils, reaching out towards you. This assault of images and light and sound keeps building and building until your eyes just snap open again. Faint as the building waves of noise start fading into memory, you hear a trailing voice. This last breath of a whisper. Please, come. You catch these two words out of the noise as it fades into the stillness of the room, only echoing deep in the back of your mind. But there is something about them that feels important to you, as one of the rare times you've heard those words spoken in Druidic.
That happens during the night.
Yes.
Yes.
You are currently alone in a room set aside for you to rest in.
I guess I'll just close my eyes again and try to concentrate to make it appear again. To like get more
Much like
information.
before, as you close your eyes again, you are met with the same flashing images. This forest on fire, the smoke twirling around you, and the words, please, come.
Do I recognize anything about the forest?
Roll me a perception roll.
Dirty 20.
You see a number of large trees with sort of almost gnarled, twisted trunks. Some of them have grown fairly tall. All of them are sort of pulling back and forth in this wind, in this heat, as they set aflame, as they burn, as their leaves vanish into fire. It's, in terms of trees, nothing you've seen from the underground. It's definitely akin to what you would see around Polythreme, around the surface. But there's nothing unique enough about them that you could specifically place them. And again, as this just flood of light and sound grows too much, You open your eyes and it immediately fades again. The shreds of this whisper almost seem to echo from outside as the wind rattles the door and the shutters of windows outside.
I will step outside and like look around.
You step outside the shack. The wind blowing in from the north along the passage between the city and the mountain almost seems to carry the words within. And near the edge of Clifford, where you've been helping with construction, the only thing you see north of here is a faraway forest. Like leaves or embers of ash, the wind seems to almost carry the words towards the city and towards you.
I will go and wake up Silas. Assuming that we're all
Yeah.
there.
I mean, you
Yeah,
have.
there is several checks that have been put aside for you, and in one of them you find a sleeping Silas.
Yeah, Silas just wanted to let you know. As soon as he knows that there's like a fucking 120 gold pieces on his head, he starts sleeping with his invisibility cloak. So he's there, he's sleeping, but he's invisible. I don't know.
Still have a
Yeah.
blanket over?
It's also up to you guys, but the mansion is open.
Then he would probably sleep in the mansion for safety measure.
Like, it's set up as
Yeah.
a hospital, but you can take one of the empty
Yeah.
hospital beds.
There are probably still a few people inside of the mansion, but there is, of course, enough space that could be made for you.
Then he will sleep in his pillow fort in the mansion.
Okay.
Invisible.
Huxley will knock on the pillow. Silas, are you there?
Yeah. What's up, Hux?
I have to go to the forest.
You have to go to what? Where? What?
The forest.
Which forest exactly? Did you have a dream, like a nightmare or something?
Yeah. Kinda. Okay, bye.
Okay.
I will start walking to the forest.
Okay. A long stretch of the woods closest to Polythreme, already sort of squeezed tightly in between the farm fields and the bordering mountains to the east, lies this stretch of woods completely deforested, completely scoured. The trees are cut close to the ground and with little regard for age or value to make shelter for the slum towns, Valwood and Clifford in this case, shirking, of course, no resource in their effort to survive. The wind, blowing along in gusts of cold wind, carries more shreds of these whispers as you wander along towards the tree line. Now that you are free from the smell of the city and the stench of inglorious survival, there is a distinct smell in the air. An intoxicating foul sweetness that reminds you of decay, but not the kind that conjures thoughts of evil, of blood or loss. More like the smell of natural fermentation. The sweetness of the air's aroma grows heavier and denser the more you near the forest. The line of trees beyond the cut ground, shrouded in shadow. Sporadically, as you wander along, you see animals emerging from the nearby fields along the west. The wheat has long been harvested now, and only a dense carpet of low dry grass remains on the tilled ground. You see wild dogs, hares, and even small hedgehogs every now and then emerging from this grass, sniffing the air, and darting out of the field towards the forest looming in the distance. Close to the tree line, you hear the whisper more clearly, more distinctly, and from more direction. Almost like light reflected in mirrors, the whisper reflects from tree to tree. Or rather, it feels as though the trees repeat the words from the source, carrying them like rumors as far as they can. But the words remain the same. The same phrase in Druidic. Please come. You enter the forest?
Yeah.
The forest grows dense as soon as you cross the boundary of its outer trees. Trees that some time ago probably would have counted as the dense heart of a much larger forest, before the trees were cut back to make room for fields and walls for shelter. But the density of plant growth still seems excessive, even considering the circumstances. The roots on the ground grow wild and haphazard, breaking through the ground and twisting and intertwining with each other, almost choking each other. Bushes and lichen cover the undergrowth and every open patch of dirt, leaving no room for light on the ground, even growing over one another. And you continue into the forest. You notice almost immediately as you cross another boundary deeper into the woods. You notice this change in trees and the forest around you, in the air and even in the light. A sensation washes over you that feels as natural as it feels manufactured. From your knowledge of the natural world, you know that you've crossed the boundary of a protected land, the border of a grove. The dim blue light of the moon isn't visible here. Instead, the tall crowns of these gnarled old trees, the same ones you've seen when you close your eyes, reflect a fading but warm red sunset. The ground, the grove around you looks like it's dying, decaying, rotting as it stands. But you almost get a sense of comfort from it, like this is the way it is supposed to be. But then a more familiar sensation reaches your nose. Something that is hiding amidst this natural decay. This final rest of life. There's this acidic, sour taste by comparison. Only a hint of it hides in the smells in the air, in the tips of the falling leaves, underneath the roots of the aging trees. A hint of corruption, of the blight. Here you are. Weak voice speaks out from close by, still speaking in Druidic. You see under piles of dead leaves and roots a glint of armor, the form of metal, and you realize that bodies lay half sunken in the ground before you. Two large bodies in the form of knights, warriors, likely once defenders of this grove. And rested on the ground between them, the body of a pale woman. Her face is slack and gaunt, but her headdress appears like one of authority. To your eyes, she seems weak, fragile. Her eyes move to meet yours, but her head, her torso, none of it appears to have enough strength to greet you.
I guess I go up to her.
Her voice, as you approach, comes out again in a whisper. I am Kalasta, keeper of the Autumn Grove. You hear my words. You are kindred, and I beg of you, help. The Autumn Grove wanders. It brings much needed endings to long and old things, so new things can be born where they fall. But the grove has ventured where death is not welcome. Old and horrid and dark. Our words were nothing but empty promises to the blight, and now it runs through the veins of trees, the ground, and the air. The wildfire circle understood, and we should have listened. You, please, carry the seed. Her arm shakes and trembles, even as she fails to lift her arm, only managing to unfurl her hand and letting a small object roll from her palm.
And take it.
You hold a almost gnarled wooden round sphere that appears almost like a dried seed, almost like a seed that wouldn't take root even if you doused it in water. The grove dies. The circle dies. And you carry the seed for another day when the autumn is welcome again. Hold it safe and listen to my last word. Grab my hand.
Grab her hand.
You lift the hand with your own and feel how cold it is. Cold, the ground. But through the hand you get a sense of your surroundings. A sense of the grove around you. This forest that is so very much alive even as it seems to die and decay. But you also feel the corruption that is starting to devour it from the inside. And a energy runs through your hands as she speaks. Become fire, and I will spread it through the heart of the grove. I can spare them the light and make way.
There's nothing else to do.
In our own way, all things end to start anew. Maybe this was needed from the start. 'Cause
turn into a fire elemental?
You shape into the form of a fire elemental, fire incarnate, primal. And even though the hand you are holding still is burning to cinders before your eyes, there is no pain nor scream. The fire spreads across the ground and trees with the speed of igniting oil, and you feel the leaves curling and disintegrating, the woods cracking and fragmenting, rising into black smoke that envelops you and almost becomes part of you. In the inferno around you, the autumn grove comes to an end, collapsing in the flames, unwilling to become part of the blight. With you at the center of the fire, devouring it. A fundamental understanding of fire distills in your mind, knowledge you feel like you've always known but never understood. As these thoughts play through your mind, the woods around you warp, light and space. The grove fades like an illusion that's been dispelled, and the dark and cold blue forest lies before you again. Light falls past the trees beside you, from the fields just past the tree line. You are at the edge of the forest, barely a few hundred feet from its wall.
I guess just stands there for a while. And then like nods and goes back.
Mm-hmm. You sort of listen to the sounds of the forest a little bit, almost trying to smell that same scent, even the bad parts of it, just to make sure when all seems as though the fire that you started was never there. And you return to Clifford, now with the understanding that you can now wild shape into hybrid elementals,
Ooh.
namely, for now, ash, fire, lava, and steam.
I guess I also inspect the seeds.
The seeds to your touch definitely contains a measure of magic. You get this almost warm sense of it, the same way that you felt this warmth in that autumn grove. But at the moment, it seems dormant, waiting.
Just put it in my pocket
Mm-hmm.
and go back. To tomorrow. What time is it at that point?
It would be sort of late night. The moon is well up in the air.
I will probably mm, turn into an elemental first. Just to try it
Okay.
out.
Which one do you want to shape into?
I guess smoke.
There's this wisp of smoke moves across the field. And even though most people are inside, most of the windows shuttered, they are probably, as you pass by and close to Clifford, there's probably a few people who just sort of look outside, unsure as to the shadow they just saw moving across the field. As you go home. As the second week of your downtime is well underway, much work remains to be done in the towns outside the walls, reminiscent of the work Evelyn and Brent have undertaken before in Macaria. Though at least now you do so with more experience and more means and people at your back. You delegate tasks that don't require your immediate attention and begin working towards some of your more personal projects. Off and on, you still spend large amounts of time in the towns outside, but you've long begun returning to Quartermain to rest. Red, you spend much of the second week with your own colleagues of the Songspire College, discussing and investigating the effects of silver sickness as you and the other bards have come to call it. With your own experience and knowledge from Vidar, you learn that it's a purely destructive force originating from extreme sources of energy. A force that can destroy life on a fundamental level. It can be protected against, like many forms of magic, through barriers of lead and metal, or magical resistances against radiant and necrotic types of influence. You find there's not really anything like a cure. It is not a disease or sickness in the sense that it is caused by a virus or bacteria. It is simply wounds, injuries, damage on such a minuscule level that it may well be invisible to the eyes. But this in turn also means that it is healed like many other wounds through spells or potions of healing, often required over a longer period of time. As the symptoms and treatment of silver sickness starts to become known among the circle of the bards, the knowledge spreads fairly quickly, and just as quickly the conversations had at the college begin to change. You begin to ask around for information in regards to the lady with hands of silver, particularly among those of your colleagues frequently visiting the lower district, as well as those that were involved in the aid efforts of the initial week. You also begin your work on arming the Dart. Vidar, of course, as he said, though busy, occasionally extends a helping hand during your work on the airship. And as Silas asked how he can help Vidar, he would quickly send you on to help Ren. With some help from Evelyn and Vidar, you begin to draft some first plans of the cannon's destruction and which material you'll need.
Yeah.
Do you have funds at your disposal for that? Or
I
how
only
would
have
you
party funds, so
sort
I'll
of
ask everyone.
fund?
Yeah, Evelyn would be fine with it.
With using funds for this?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
As long
That's
as Hugs can show off his new lava form, happy you can do whatever.
Sounds awesome. Sounds
There are
like
probably times when you require some sort of forging
exactly.
and eating
Yeah.
of things where
Yeah.
He's really excited.
Did you dream about the forest again, Hugs?
No. But I can now turn into ash smoke and lava and steam.
Seems like
See-
it was just a nightmare then that gave you powers.
It wasn't a nightmare. It was the druid in the Autumn Grove.
Where's the Autumn
what
Grove?
now?
What the hell? That place is dangerous.
Did you actually go that night?
I told you I went to the forest. And I healed the druid in the Autumn Grove with my fire.
What the?
And she gave me the seed. And then I learned about fire. I think I always knew, but I just didn't understand.
Look, sorry guys, I thought Hux just had a bad dream. I didn't really
sounds
take
like-
this serious.
What?
I guess he'll show you the seed.
Looks like a little nut. Thing.
Ellen doesn't know if she believes Hux anyways when she says half, or when he says half the things he says.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
Like, it's like everything is with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Hux is a very, like, weird filter on the world, so
Did-
I don't think everything that he says is, like,
Yeah.
maybe true, maybe not. So,
Did you see any shape-changing werebears or naked men?
No.
Okay. Okay, that's good. I think. Wait, you burnt the whole grove?
Yeah.
Right?
It was
Hey.
dying. So
Well, yes, the autumn grove. That's kind of its thing.
yeah, but it was like being corrupted by the blight.
blight.
Yeah.
It's really close.
It's getting really close, yeah.
Maybe. Wait.
Corrupted in what way?
Like it was eating at the roots. But it's fine, like it's gone now, but one day I'll just replant it.
I'm so confused, but sounds good.
Is the blight still there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's gone, so I don't think so.
I can work with that, at least.
Oh yeah, Evelyn, what happened to that phoenix egg?
Yeah, but
This thing ever hatched?
off to the side.
There's a phoenix egg.
Yeah, I was making her tell you about it, but she still hasn't done it. So
Haven't had much time, all things considered.
Do you think if I turn into fire and hatch it,
see, this is what I'm thinking. Huxley seems like Huxley has some time. I'm just saying.
then I'm like the mom of the phoenix.
I'm just not,
Well, it was an icy phoenix. That helps.
Turn into. No, I can't turn into ice.
You better go kill another grove or something.
I think there's a grove. of-
That's a joke. I don't know.
All I know is that next time Hux says crazy shit at night, I'm gonna follow them, and then I make sure that no one takes advantage and tries to earn 130,000 gold pieces.
Yeah.
Also, I still can't believe that all of us together are not even worth 500,000. They could have
We'll
at
work
least
on it.
made it like 500,000, you know. Just saying.
I don't think we need to make that a goal.
Already
Bam.
aiming higher.
Yeah, already going full One Piece.
I understand why
If we
Huxley is supposed to.
beat up some people, they'd increase it.
I think we need a cannon to beat up some silvers. That's what I'm working on it.
Last I recall of the Phoenix Egg Vector, Evelyn couldn't really go much further with it as it was. Is that correct?
Yes. So your research of its sort of nature kind of came to a close.
Mm-hmm.
You potentially could use it to create a potion that could temporarily sort of offer you some effect that the Phoenix inhabit. But other than that, you made no particular progress in discerning its nature or the nature of its sort of immortality.
I know it's inconvenient, but like with downtime, like maybe Huxley would want to do something with that, but doesn't know about it.
I could take that in. I don't know if we'll get through all of
Yeah,
downtime
yeah.
today, anyways.
That's why I just randomly brought it up.
Huxley now really, really wants.
Yeah, Evelyn's like hemming and hawing, trying to weigh her options.
Brett has been, as I noted, leaning on you for a while to tell him
Yes,
about
yes,
it, and
yes.
you've just been like, I done my research, but I don't know.
I think you would make a great mom.
Think so?
Of course.
You are clearly highly trusted by the spirits of nature.
Look how good you take care of Helay.
Yes. I do feed him every day.
What are you feeding him exactly?
Stuff. He needs a varied diet.
If I give you this egg, will you not feed Helay any of my stuff?
Yeah.
Or potentially allow, if this thing hatches, any of my things to be burned or frozen?
Never. I will teach all my children to leave Emma's stuff alone.
And she will reach into her bag and pull out nothing and hold it out to Hux.
It's an invisible egg.
Oh. Take it.
Yeah, that's the moment where you feel like, huh? But as soon as you sort of, place your hands to the sides, you feel the form of the egg.
Looks
You
like
feel how
raising an
cold
eyebrow,
it
like
feels.
taking it and then feels it. Oh yeah, that makes sense.
And besides, like, if it sheds or anything, aren't phoenix feathers, like, used and stuff? I feel like...
Potentially. Depends on the phoenix, but
Yeah, Huxley,
but
maybe just,
still.
like, collect any, like, sheddings from it, if that's convenient. Yeah,
He's not really listening. He's way too excited now.
that's fine.
I mean, I can give you some tips. I'm like an expert in eggs hatching, as he like gives Huxley a couple of scratches.
Yes, he will
Usually
spend the rest
as-
of the time he has just been focused on hatching this egg.
Okay. As you sort of pet Sucks, usually you'd get some sort of chirping from the insect, but it seems strangely quiet, like almost as if it were tired.
You've been acting strange lately, my little friend.
Where do you usually keep Sucks?
I mean, Let me just check how big Saxley at the moment actually is.
It's almost like
Juvenile, yeah.
size of a parrot, sort of sitting on your shoulder.
Okay,
a little
if
bit
it's
sort of more clinging onto the back of your shoulder than like sitting on top of it. About that.
okay. I mean, most of the time I would probably like keep it under my cloak. Like, as long as we like walk through the city or something, but
I'm assuming it like is on your shoulder during.
yeah,
now.
on my shoulder
When
when there's
you-
like no one around that would be weirded out by it.
When you are at home in the mansion or in Quartermains, where would Saxley usually? And when you're sleeping.
I mean, in the mansion, Saxley has like his own place, right? His little,
Yeah.
his little thingy here. Yeah, and that's where he would be during the mansion time, and in the. Let me just
Mhm.
look real quick.
Now, did you sort of have free-ish reign again of where you sleep between Quartermains and the mansion? Where would you mostly spend your night?
Depends on Red. If he puts up the mansion, there are more pillows at the moment after my taste, so I would sleep there. Also feel a little bit safer there.
Especially hearing about the silvers and extra dimensional stuff. I'll put it up every night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably most of the time I would go in there.
Okay.
Has Saxley been growing lately, or has that also kind of stopped?
It seems to have stopped at the moment. We haven't really noticed any significant changes in the last episode.
Hope you're not getting sick. I will try and talk to it. To see if there's... I will use speak with animals, see if
Mm-hmm.
it can give me some kind of insight or can it tell me how it feels. I mean, it was mostly just like not really talking to me whenever I tried, but maybe I can get some kind of information.
You cast speak with animals and you ask it something, or
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna ask it like, how is it doing? How does it feel? Is there something that's missing? Stuff like that.
much like before, you'd get back these sort of single word sentences with warm, rest, sleep soon, warm, food.
You need food? More food? I'm just gonna... Warm.
Food, rest.
Evelyn, can you help me? I'm a little bit
Sorry, what?
confused
Need?
about Saxley. Just seems like it
Alright.
doesn't feel like too well. I'm not sure. It's just it's responding differently for a while now, and it always when I try to talk to it, it just says warm food rest, and it just seems really like it doesn't have the same energy than before.
might be hibernating of some sort. I'm not really familiar with this species of insect. Some do, so it could want to burrow away somewhere. I could at least attempt to see if I can notice anything wrong with it.
That would be really cool.
Right. Evelyn will take a moment to try and look over Suxley.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead and roll me a medicine check.
Oh jeez. That's 30.
Jesus.
And can you go ahead and roll me a nature check at advantage?
Sure. Uh, 19.
As Silas puts down Sux, it definitely seems less skittish than usual. Where usually it would sort of, skitter around or turn and constantly face people. Right now it's just almost sitting still. As far as you are able to tell, from your medicinal knowledge, there are no parasites, no obvious signs of infection or sickness or any injuries or wounds. From a sort of medical standpoint, Suxley seems fine. But without knowing really more intimately the species, you can't really explain his current behavior.
Right, so he seems fine, definitely more lethargic, which again could just be we are in winter now, so the temperatures are changing, things like that can affect. He's not in his natural environment. He might need it warmer than it is. But physically, he's fine. There's nothing that I can tell from that. I'd have to do more research to see if there's anything on his species, but I'm doubtful I'd find much on that here. You could ask Reginald if he's familiar with Suxley. But other than that, maybe try alternating a series of various temperatures to see if that changes the behavior. Different environments, things like, let's see, we found him around bushes. Maybe different things that are more familiar to the environment that he was in.
Yeah, I can try that.
Rhett should be able to accommodate that technically every time he sets this up, the mansion back up. You could ask him to try a different containment for Suxley.
Also, Huxley, I feel like you could need your lava elemental to try a higher temperature around him.
So I'm not saying that I don't think Huxley wouldn't be extraordinarily cautious, but there is a question about how flammable potentially Suxley is.
Oh
You
yeah.
can turn into steam.
Maybe try normal environment scenarios before extreme scenarios.
Yeah, I will ask Red. I mean, that was a good idea. That he can like change the mansion a little bit every
I have an
time.
incredibly distinct memory of the Doom Gloom shrooms, whatever they were. The Doom Blooms. Doom Blooms. Which I believe is where they, like,
Yeah.
were. So I will warily put one of those in the cage.
Great. Like we can change temperatures. We can like put some like fires or something close.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. So, as part of your done, you heat up Suxley.
Yeah, I will just try different things to see
Mm-hmm.
if they somehow affect Suxley.
Okay. Your first initial attempt yields very little results. Yes, definitely, as you place these sources of heat within Suxley's enclosure, a certain distance then Suxley seems to move up towards it and then sort of sits still. Varying the levels of heat only really changes the distance at which Suxley seems to stop near the source of heat. And otherwise, it just seems to sort of sit on the ground. Whenever it is offered food from you, it feeds. And otherwise, doesn't seem to do much
I
currently.
will also like try to build like little caves and whatnot in its enclosure to see if it like tries to like hide it there and maybe go for a hibernation of some kind, just to see if it actually wants to
Mhm.
do that or if it ignores the
You
covers.
set aside sort of loose ground and dirt, gravel, and these rocky caves for it to retreat into, but currently it seems content with just sitting at a certain distance near one of the sources of heat, just standing there. Evelyn, during the second week, you continue helping with the outside towns, slowly finding more and more time to delve into your other project, researching some of the specimens you have and beginning your investigations of the mysterious sickness from the explosion of the Mediocre district. On the former, you progress much more smoothly than the latter. You determine the origin of your samples, their makeup, the structure of their cells, and their physical reaction to damage and other outside influence. Your research into the strange sickness, leaving its patients weak, frail, and often comatose, however, quickly hits a wall. The sickness appears magical in nature, not unlike a form of curse, but much harder to identify. The magical means at your disposal and in the means of the cleric at the Temple of Aenitas seem useless against it. It's not a curse that can be removed, nor a spell that can be dispelled. Curing health and condition seems to do very little other than offering short-term reprieve for the patients. The sickness, being a magical condition like this, also appears to have no way of spreading, which makes its initial effect on so many people similarly puzzling.
Is this the same silver
Mhm.
sickness? Or, okay. I definitely would have shared anything I
So
found.
this is not the silver
Sorry,
sickness.
yes, different.
This is what happened that Antok Arc initially sent supplies, the incident, the sort of explosion from the Meteor District?
Oh, and it's somehow different.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
And, yes. Your clips.
I guess there's some confusion on Rhett's part then as he's like trying to describe. I thought that was the same thing I was trying to help with.
So,
It's different. Then.
yeah, it is different. So, what you were sort of investigating, I assumed, was simply what happened under the effects of the decaying silver and such.
Well, I was trying to help with the people that got sick from the city's attack. I was talking to that doctor about.
Okay, so that would be the same sort of sickness that Evelyn would be investigating at the time.
Okay.
In that case, you'd probably come to the same findings, probably in a similar fashion.
Okay. I think, yeah, we're both trying to help the people that are currently sick in the city. From the doctor's description, it just sounded like Rhett, very similar to what he knew about his own experience with the radiation sickness tip of him. So his mind made that connection. Obviously, it's not the same thing.
Once you sort of delve into one, you'd probably very quickly realize that they are not one and the same. Yes. This is something I should have prepared. I need to cross-reference a list. And I don't have the list where it's supposed to be. Now I need to scroll
Oh, no.
all the way up.
Oh no.
Make sure I copy the list this time. There we go. Post this in the Pacific channel. There we go. Okay. Oh, you have humanoid and operation.
I guess if we are pursuing this in parallel, after that first weekend, right, kind of hitting a wall, if you want help from the Bard's College, I try to make those connections for you. So I don't think Rhett's like pretending to be a doctor or know anything about what he's talking about. He was just trying to get people on board with like helping.
Yeah.
So if they're helpful to you, great, let them know.
If she hit that wall, she probably would have moved on. To like other considerations of things that she's got.
Well, just so happens that as the third week looms close, you receive word from a messenger.
No.
You first from your research get your research credits. These
Hey.
sort of just at the moment simply represent the level of your knowledge. So the purpose of which will become clearer at some a different time. Why would you say it like that?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Amazing.
The messenger that comes for you, Evelyn,
Mm.
is from Mardin, who informs you of the presence of your father and family arriving in Nicaria via the lightning rail. She thought it prudent to delay his return to the city by formally inviting him to speak with her, and she is currently engaged in the effort to stall his arrival should you want to meet him first.
Evelyn will reluctantly go ahead and send a quick response back that she will be on her way. And then do her best to very quickly change into... while she hasn't necessarily not been wearing noble clothing, like something more appropriate for her, what her family would be expecting her to be in, and then begin to make her way to the train station. If anybody was around at that point in time, she would have relayed that she's going to go meet her family at the train
We
station.
were just talking about not going alone. You need a bodyguard.
I think in the third week I'm probably working with Vidar, so I'm not there.
That's perfect fair, because I wasn't sure who would still be around down there. So, yeah, Evelyn will, whoever is with her, will relay that, but I'm not sure who would be with her. If anyone.
Yeah, I'm either at Quartermains or Vidar, because I assume we'll use the lab at Quartermains to help build things. Yes.
There would probably be workshop and such faculties up, or facilities, sorry, up where the
Okay.
dart is sort of in its hangar.
Sure.
If you were to, work
But-
closely on it.
At the same time, Vent is at Quartermains, so... right? Vent is at Quartermains most
Yes.
of the time? Okay.
Unless you asked them to go help you. Evelyn would have been fine with that, because she can't take Vint currently with her.
Yeah, yeah, sure, I'll just have all of them in one place with Vidar.
Okay.
I don't know who... Yeah, you might be alone in Macaria.
Then as you go to Mikaria, Evelyn,
Hmm.
as soon as you arrive, attendants rush to meet you, hastily bring you to the governance office through a side entrance. Inside, you see Martin pacing back and forth, immediately whirling around the second she sees you. Oh, good, you're here. I think he's getting impatient. Can I send for him?
Of course.
One of the attendants hurries towards the door, stopping for a moment to adjust his very modest attire before opening the door. Though in the eyes of your father, considering the modesty of everything around here, it wouldn't mean much to begin with. Another attendant stumbles in through the door as it opens, obviously stressed and slightly panicked. I present the honored father of the Saint, Lord Quadsilver. And he steps to the side. Your father enters next. The dissatisfaction at his announcement clearly written across his face.
Whereas
Immediately,
Evelyn is
Martin-
like smirking.
Martin bows deeply in greeting, and as your father catches sight of you, his grim demeanor softens a little. He gives a nod of acknowledgement and the wave of a hand to the rest of the room and walks up to you. As more familiar faces enter, the attendants scramble outside the room, leaving only your family and Martin.
Pleased that you've all arrived safely.
Well, they need a little bit more experience announcing. I did tell them my full name. An ever so slight smile hushes across his face as he stretches his arms to embrace you in a hug.
Evelyn will move to quickly return the hug.
He embraces you for a long moment, and as he lets go, He steps aside as your younger siblings lunge to embrace you. They drive the air from your lungs. They're taller than you've last seen them, fully reaching your height at this point, and you struggle for a moment not to fall under the pressure of their impact. They both echo simultaneously, a devious smile on their faces. Sis, it's been too long.
It certainly has. You've grown nearly a foot, it seems. I'm going to get stampled at this point. How are you both? Your travels were good?
They both sort of glance at each other. Well, let's say it was a learning experience. Your older brother is still there, smoothing some of the deals. Tired saint, I've heard.
Seems
Where's my saint? Maybe I could be the saint of actually working to keep the roof over this family. How have you been? I've heard some worrisome things.
well, not the necessarily the I haven't gained the favor of the Forge Masters as of late. It's rather the opposite.
So I've heard. I've heard from the council on my outings. Some worrying stuff. Nothing to worry about. I'm sure there's things we can arrange in that regard.
It seems as long as I keep away from the silvers, I'm generally all right, though.
No, still unbecoming. No, not to blame you. I mean, clearly some of the council need to be reminded who raised up the city in the first place.
I'm forgiving of the situation, considering how delicate everything is right now. I'd rather the individuals here in the lower city are already suffering enough under the silvers. I'd rather not have things become more complicated for them.
Very well, I'll leave it up to your judgment. This one seems like sort of almost purposefully looks around the room. Been a lot of changes around Polythreme, outside of Polythreme. I respect that you're building a thing of your own. Maybe some of your siblings could take a little slice of that. You see the twins behind him just sort of snickering to each other.
Well, if my brothers would love to get their hands a bit dirty and help out, I would easily be able to find them a place to lend their aid.
Oh, didn't you hear, sis? Our hands are always dirty.
You know, the good kind of dirt, though. Maybe. All things considered, I'm hopeful that when things calm down a bit, then we'll be able to get rid of the bothersome business with the Forest Masters. But for now, it's manageable, and I understand that the council's in a difficult position.
Council's always in a difficult position. That doesn't mean they can treat their own like whatever they please. But I hear what you're saying. Let's show some leniency in these times. I've heard that our business with Antok Ark is smooth. Perhaps that'll settle things more quickly.
Hopefully,
Have you
yes.
seen your mother?
Briefly.
Oh, good, good.
I promised I'd, once you returned, I'd join the family for dinner.
Yes. That'd be grand. She has been missing you dearly.
I picked up a bit on that. But it's been nice to find something to occupy my time with. And
Well, it would have been nice to have the entire family together for once, but business is business. I'm sure your brother will join us soon as he's ready. Soon
Or
as
do I?
some people's mistake are smooth.
Do I know where they went? I can't remember if I was told or not.
I think you were told that they headed east, no west, east, west in on the lightning rail, but I don't think you were told specifically. I know my directions.
What exactly is he working on? If you don't mind my asking. Just
Trade route.
curiosity.
Far Harbor. It's a small village at the coast. There's a route across the ocean we're trying to establish. Some security measures that need to be taken. Further up north, you know, any area sort of free still from the mess out there. I'm sure there's many things to be had. Value of silver is very little these days. Definitely ready to branch out into other subjects. Consumable, that's the new market. Anything that gets used up, there's always more demand for.
True enough.
I'd considered food, but well, it's been a rocky relationship with Antogag, but an unstable price also means unstable market.
I have a companion of mine that's on relatively good terms with the higher ups in Antagar that I believe I'll be bringing to dinner to introduce you to.
Well, I was just going to suggest that. I like the way you've started thinking for yourself.
I suppose it has to be done at some point in time.
I wish more people would follow suit in that regard.
He doesn't come across as much, I'll warn you. He's also one of the individuals with hasn't made a close connection with the Forge Masters. But you'd be surprised by the connections he has. So
It's hardly a surprise. I'm assuming he's from there.
yes,
They're all a little bit more farm handy.
I think he's a bit more than that, but I'll let you meet him yourself.
Very well. I, for one, can't wait to get out of this travel attire.
Of course.
Dinner, then, perhaps today? Tonight?
Yes, I'll
I'm sure
make
your
sure to.
mother would love to have more time in advance, but busy. I'm sure anything can be arranged.
I think I should be able to round up my companions to do dinner tonight.
Good. It
And,
is good to see you, Evelyn.
I'm glad you were safe on your journeys. Do be careful around the silvers.
They wouldn't dare, but I will keep my distance all the same. I appreciate your concern.
Evelyn will move to walk him out.
The rest of your family follows, and as they get ready to leave, your older sister stops still for a moment. Well, I'll see you tonight then, sis. That was something. Does appear like the old dad is rather proud of you.
Rise to both of us.
Tired same. I've heard it a couple of times. I didn't see how true it truly would be. You sure you're getting enough rest?
Once, now I'm getting more rest. It was a bit chaotic there for a week or so.
Of
But-
course. Well, I'll see you tonight. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Tonight. I'll see you there.
And they set off into the direction of the city.
Evelyn's gonna turn to where I'm assuming Martin was somewhere nearby throughout all of that.
Yep.
And she's
You
gonna take
can tell sort of as you turn back into the room, Martin has probably, even during the conversation, shuffled ever closer to sort of the corner.
Arden, is there any way I could possibly ask a couple of people just to follow them through, just to make sure that they're not held up in the lower district at all?
Yeah, of course. We have a couple of people that are inconspicuous that come from inside, so they have free rites of passage and such. Yeah, we can. Of course.
I just want to make sure that they're not running into any difficulties with my association.
Should we let them know that they're
No,
escorted,
you
or-
can just keep it at a
distance,
distance,
of course,
unless
yes.
things become problematic. Then just send me messages as quickly as possible.
Right away. And she heads out to inform people. As you have the family dinner tonight, is there anything specific you wanted to talk to them about? Would you like to RP that, or you
I
want to
don't
just go over it?
I don't think there's anything specific, other than like, hey, I'm here catching up like I promised I would.
For the
Um,
most part, throughout this dinner, it would be small talk. Of course, when you bring Soleil, assuming then Soleil comes with.
I would like to introduce Lord Silas in the most professional manner
Okay.
available to me.
Because Evelyn would have
Yes,
absolutely like.
Probably this sort of
hinted
no
at this.
comment where your father mentions that he was wondering where, Red had been. And would immediately, of course, then strike up conversations with you, Silas, about
Oh,
possible connections to Antogar.
this
For
would be
most
the
part,
most
it's,
awkward.
For the most part, it's a rather one-sided conversation, as you have somewhat little to say to the subject.
Just looking
and,
professional, nodding now and then, having my hand on my chin, and just yeah.
Largely, conversations around the table would be small talk. You'd learn a little bit about the place that they've been, Far Harbor, where they're sort of looking for trade connections in regards to oil that the cleansers buy, as well as some of it is necessary in refinement and construction and forges in Polythreme. But other than that, the dinner is largely uneventful. Though, for some people, probably a little bit more awkward in training than for others.
Huxley's telling everyone about phoenixes and lava elementals.
Right, it's running interference for Huxley and Silas.
Uh-huh. You find some very excited listeners, Huxley, in the form of the twins.
Yep. Yep, yep, yep.
He will start explaining how to turn into a lava elemental.
Everyone would spend most of the dinner pretending that she can't hear everything. Just like this is happening, it's
Once
fine.
you start hearing them talk about fire and flames and lava, you get a little bit more worried, but
Yeah,
try your hardest not to.
yeah.
Also, he probably is looking like a gnome when getting to the dinner, and then like slowly takes more and more like quartz silver characteristics.
Oh gosh.
Just the bluish hair,
The sixth
almost
sibling.
starting to look like a family member.
Oh no.
Amazing. Oh no. He's infiltrating. Oh,
I was just gonna pretend like none of this is happening. It's fine. It's fine.
Silas,
Mm-hmm.
a question. During this dinner, would you have left Suxley at home?
I think so, yeah. I don't think this would be a good place to bring Suxley.
Mm-hmm. Then in the evening, I'm assuming as a group return home, unless someone like Evelyn would stay behind and spend the
Oh,
night.
she'd be out of there as fast as she could
Mhm.
get.
Same.
As you return to the mansion.
Oh gosh.
Silas.
I mean, you can bring it, no
You
one can
bring
see it
No,
anyway.
Nobody will see.
Everyone would have insisted Huxley needed to stay behind and the egg needed to stay behind.
As you enter Silas,
Mm-hmm.
you do not see Suxley.
What do you mean? Suxley? Suxley! Gonna scream for him, shout for him.
Give me a perception roll.
Perception? Let me just check my character sheet real quick. Alright. Created a Mothman. 18.
You see a thin trail of what looks like greenish mucus from this plantain.
From this plant to the tree over there? Yeah, we'll check the plant and we'll check the tree.
Where do you go first?
The plant. Because it's closer to his enclosure.
You move to the planter and you carefully move, the stalks of the flowers and such aside. Can you roll me a quick medicine check?
Oh yeah, of course. 12.
You see Huxley lying on his unmoving.
No. I wanna grab him and make sure it's not like I just hope it's just like maybe he just, what's it called in English again, like shed his skin and just you
Well,
know
as
grew.
you grab Huxley, there's this cracking noise, and the shell comes apart in your hands. There is nothing inside, and it does appear like a mold.
Nice. Good. I will follow the
You
trail then.
follow the trail, and as you look up in the tree, you see this sort of almost like a web of slime. There's this large glob, almost like a cocoon, but not quite. It doesn't have, a heart outside or anything like that. And you see Huxley just sort of latch onto the tree, covered in this glob of mucus.
He's just sitting there. He's not like creating more of it or something, or covering himself in
At the
it. or-
moment, it just seems to sort of sit there, unmoving.
I mean, at this point, I feel like this is a natural thing happening. So,
Mhm.
guess for now, I will just leave him alone.
Okay,
Let him do his thing.
you leave.
My boy is growing.
Mm-hmm.
Oops. Okay. During the following week, Red, you make steady progress on the cannon.
Yes, you mentioned materials. How much did I need to contribute, or is that
As you start properly working on the cannon, at the moment, just from the basic materials you need, just sort of building a frame, a connection, you would probably need about 10,000 worth of material. Much of it is silver, some of it is mithril, a casing that sort of is able to withstand the forces of the outside air, much like the ship's hull itself. And as you make progress, as every one of you is sort of in their own research, as Huxley is beginning to experiment with the egg, you get word from the Songspire colony. A messenger arrives telling you that there is a lead on the Silver Saint. Through one of the bards, you learn that to gain an audience with the Silver Saint, you must first visit a brass foundry in the lower district and, with a tribute to present, enter a backroom warehouse at that brass foundry.
Alright. I will definitely let everyone know about that. And would want everyone to be invited. In case it's an ill-concealed attempt to collect 470,000
Yeah.
gold.
But if it isn't a trap, it does sound kind of promising. Interesting, at
Yeah.
least. So,
Yeah. Mhm.
And then suggestions on a few. What? Quite some. Hmm.
As you ponder what potentially to bring and
Yeah.
how to prepare to get
Okay.
there, I would say let's take a 5 to 10 minute break,
alrighty.
and we'll continue right after. Be right back. The
Or-
brass foundry is in the lower district.
Yeah, I think probably we're gonna want Windwalk just cast prior.
Okay.
So I'll do that. Make sure the Death Ward is cast on Evelyn. As usual.
You preemptively cast the Windwalk and Death Wand, and you make your way down to the lower district once again. The foundry that you were told to go to is near the eastern edge of Polythreme, not too far from the train movement. As you arrive, the foundry is wide open. Its gates are open, there are workers moving in and out. From inside, you feel warmth flowing out. You see the glow of molten metal as brass is cast into shape.
Can we find this back room that we've been told about?
As you sort of look down this wide open, almost like a barn, just this massive factory floor, at the very end, you see a large door.
Let's walk confidently to the door.
As you walk through the foundry, there are not really any people paying you any mind. You simply walk on through, reaching the door on the other side.
Open it up and
You open the door and see a dark warehouse. The building itself has no windows. There are only 3 lights above, illuminating only the middle of this warehouse. To the sides, you see large case crates. You see multiple rows of bags, packages, sort of hidden in shadow. Shelf, cart. And in the middle of the room, right ahead of you, is a single chest illuminated by one of the brightest lights above.
I'll kind of like start approaching it.
Consider
Yeah,
my
I'm gonna
natural
put-
state being invisible
Mm-hmm.
at this point.
But I'm also gonna like go a little more tentatively and like glance back at Evelyn now and then, see if she's seen the truth.
Yeah. Oh, I'll stay probably only like 5 feet behind Red as he moves forward.
actually changing shapes the whole time, or was that just an
No,
accident?
no. I think
Okay.
he's went back to a gnome.
Okay,
or, like,
okay.
a fast food.
For a moment I was like, is this actually happening? Because that would be really interesting to to notice. I'll become one with the shadows.
I want to look over the chest
Okay.
and see what Evelyn sees when she sees the chest. I'm just going, magic chest. Oh, magic chest.
As you look over, Evelyn, there is nothing magic in the chest.
Mm-hmm, normal looking chest, from what I can tell.
Attempt to open the chest.
The chest at the center of the room is empty, except for a single object at its bottom. Much like what you're holding right now, it's one of the amulet you've seen so many times now. Crudely made, much like many of those you've seen among the more of the workers of the lower district. Cast iron, brass, beaten steel.
I'm going to set the casket of honey inside and my fully platinum emblem and then pick that one up. So like I put
Silas.
my offering.
Mm-hmm.
You suddenly hear a voice to your right. Take the emblem. What did you bring as tribute?
Another emblem of great value. And
Why?
to show the respect and value we place in your work.
Can you roll me a
A what?
stealth?
Right.
DC is fairly low since it's only stunned.
Okay, and I have like, yeah, I have like advantage on sound and sight at the moment because I'm invisible. And sound because of my boots. Oh yeah, that was a pretty good roll for 29.
You see someone sort of shrouded in a cloak sitting on the cart.
Gonna go closer and see how this person exactly looks like.
You move a little bit closer and you see this goatee, beard. There's not really much to see. They're wrapped pretty tightly in this cloak.
Alright, I'm just gonna stare at them. To make sure they don't do any tricks.
Why bring a symbol as tribute?
Symbols have the greatest value. This one, yes, has monetary value. But it seems that the symbol represents hope to people. What more valuable gift could you give other than hope? It is recognition.
A decent answer. Keep it. The Silver Saint wants to meet you. You and all your close friends.
Closer than you know, my friend.
Hey, Silas, can you give me a dex save?
Uh-huh.
As the figure stands up and wants to jump down from the cart.
Sure.
Directly where you're standing right now.
Of course. 16.
You step back quickly enough for the figure to land without sort of, bumping into you. There's definitely a little bit of the rush of the air. Just sign. Behind this warehouse, in the alley, there's a crate. It leads to the bowel. You'll find yourself in a dead-end tunnel. Continue down its path and walk straight. Don't deviate, just keep going. When they ask you, present that symbol, and you'll meet her.
Thanks. Wait, so he told me to keep my symbol? Which one? I'm still leave that casket of honey though.
You just leave the card in there. I mean, okay.
I'll take. He didn't tell me. Yeah, I'll just take both of them.
Processing both, and I don't know. Press them out.
Silas? But you could probably see us. We're headed out.
Yeah, I will just follow without showing myself.
Okay.
Well, do they?
Shadow. You head out. You follow his instructions.
Yes.
You walk around the foundry, and in this sort of narrow alleyway behind the foundry, there is, much like you'd once found before, not so far from here, a grate leading down to the bow of the city.
Pop it open.
You
we
open
go.
the crate with relative ease. You imagine it's been opened many times. And descend down the ladder propped up against the side of the wall. As described, you find yourself in a thin and narrow tunnel. A dead end, with only one way to go. You begin to follow along that tunnel. Up to the point where there are other tunnels crossing. There are crossroads where tunnels lead off to the side, but there is always a path directly ahead. You continue on ahead. You continue walking for several minutes through the darkness until you come to a door. It looks shoddy, hastily assembled. It's little more than a couple of planks nailed into the walls themselves, with a rusty hinged door sort of hanging loosely in its hinges.
I look at Evelyn to see if it's is what it seems.
Do I see anything different with either detect magic or with what true sight?
See an invisible Silas.
You see an invisible sign. So I'm assuming a little bit further back.
Yeah.
Who would be on?
Yeah. That seems fine.
Yeah.
As you look at the door, you see nothing out of the ordinary. It is mundane.
Seems to at least appear from everything I can see normal. If you want to give it a closer look.
No. Fine. I'll just knock on the door.
You knock on the door, and with what little force you use to sort of knock on it, there's already a creak as it slightly swinging up.
What kind of
A short moment after, it is pulled open from the inside, and another cowled figure stands on it.
I'll present my symbol.
You quickly sort of show the symbol, and the person gives you a nod of acknowledgement, starting to head down the tunnel to the left. You are led around corner after corner down the long tunnels. When the tunnels begin to slowly change.
Can I do something?
Yeah.
I wanna, every time we turn a corner, I wanna drop ball bearings so we can find our way back in case.
How many ball bearings?
I have 4,000.
I mean, do you drop multiple or do you just drop one?
I'll just drop 1 or 2.
Near the wall or in the middle of the wall?
Like just before we go, like in this case, for example, I would drop 1 around here before we go to the left. So if we got back to this crossing, we would see them there. So we would know that is the direction we would have to go.
Do you try to sort of crouch down and place these silently, or do you drop them?
I would
The
try
tunnels
to do this
here
silently.
are mainly made of sort of loose rock and mud wall. They're not constructed, just sort of hewn into the ground.
Yeah, I would try to make it as silent as possible.
Okay. As you continue down the path, the ground and walls slowly begin to harden and dry, to the point where the earthen tunnel seem more like fired clay, cracked and split. Soon you also find it scorched and darkened. When the escort stops past another crossroad, blocking the way forward, and gesturing to the right.
Let's go that way.
You step forward another small stretch of blackened corridor further, and the tunnel takes on the quality of cold, black, molten rock, shimmering like obsidian glass. The corridor ends in a small cave of obsidian floor, walls, and ceiling. At its edges, the volcanic glass has formed stalactites and pillars as it melted, dripping onto the ground. And at the center of that small obsidian cave stands a woman next to a collection of chairs. As you enter, she turns, and it doesn't take you very long to see them. Her hands look to almost entirely be made of silk.
Organic silver or just like actual metal?
Roll me a perception check with disadvantage.
Alright. Uh, 16.
It's difficult to tell. It has this shimmer and glint to it that you would expect of metal. But it doesn't move on these sort of hinges. It appears soft as she moves her hand, almost like liquid metal.
I'm suddenly way more suspicious. Hello, I'm Rhett.
Welcome. You can take a seat if you'd like.
Sure, why not?
I would first like to apologize. I know you've gotten much of the blame for some of my doing. The riot wasn't coincidental.
That tracks.
I knew you would come for your friends in some way, and by extension, we knew too. One of ours pretended to be your associate to get imprisoned alongside your friends. She went willingly, knowing what would expect her. When you began to flee, we were ready, just as the Silvers had been. That is the truth behind the riot. I had long debated speaking to you, meeting you. I avoided it for reasons you may come to understand. But right now it is clear to me that I may not succeed without you. To start, I will explain who I am. When I awoke alone in the rubble of my home, I had been torn to shreds. My kind are resilient, but not so that I would survive long. There was little left of me but scrap, the inner core of my psyche, confused and panicked. I started to break apart. And in this worst state imaginable, I found someone, or she found me, and in doing so found death. I did not mean to kill her, but I caused her death all the same. And as she lay dying, I could only save part of her, a reflection, now part of me. If you would judge me for this, then do so, but it is not important to our shared cause. My name is Gromo, and I believe you have met others of my kind. First, allow me to explain what my kind are to you. Many worlds in the past, just as likely many times before, there were beings, creatures who grew, who developed ambition, who came to be a civilization, who became far more than they themselves could have believed at any point. Beyond their potential, they found only a dark thing. It too grew just like they did once. You know this dark thing, the blight. My kind were created when hope was long lost. We were arcs, each created for the fear of loss, of nothing remaining. Each of us would carry the reflections of thousands of these beings, to carry into whatever comes next, whatever continues. It ended in the blind and began anew as we slept. And we awoke. Some worlds were seeded with the reflections we bore, some we left untouched, waiting for the right time. Yet each world was like the one before it, and with every turn, beautiful but horrid, the blight would come each time earlier in the creature's potential. Over time the world fractured, gods rose and fell, and parts of the world separated from each other, turning into planes. Each one of these worlds would see fewer of us wake, and those that would awaken grew their own reflections over time, cynical and cold. We are a construct. Our kind was made without reflections of our own, and we were meant for one thing alone, to carry the reflections of a dying kind. Each one of us is an arc, an embodiment of a domineering quality amidst these reflections. I admit that I know not the others, but I know my own. I am the outcast. I'm sure you have a lot of questions, but I am afraid I cannot answer many of them. I am only a shard of myself, the core of the art. What little I know of myself is what I learned in the ruins of my refuge, from my own words that I cannot remember writing. I do, however, feel it, the rest of me, my pieces far away in the clouds, the web underneath the city, stalking the streets above, and I need your help to reclaim it. These reflections were never meant to be used as weapons, to be separated like this. This is a catastrophe in its own form. I understand if you mistrust me now, because I told you what I am, even if I ensure that I am not like the others of my kind, if I ensure you I remain the outcast. I do not understand the actions of the others, other than that I understood when I was home, but condemned them for it. I think I do not want to see life's end or squandered.
Do you want help getting your pieces back that are scattered about? The silvers.
Yes,
What happens when you get them back?
I will be more of myself.
So we have
At the
to trust that
moment,
more
they
of
are
yourself.
shattered, friend. These reflections, they are not whole as people. They too are only pieces. They are not in control, they do not understand. Though many of them in the same place exert an influence, the same influence of their domineering qualities as they were in life. Right now, they are pawns. And I can only imagine they suffer.
You started the riot, and that your reflections thus murdered hundreds of individuals.
Yes.
And you want us to end your reflections and gather them back to you so that you can become more of yourself. But what assurance do we have that while the silvers are a threat in of themselves, you as more of yourself aren't also more of a threat than the silvers currently stand?
I understand you may see me as an enemy now that the cards are on the table. I understand that you empathize with the suffering of the people that lost their lives in the riot. But I think you also understand why they chose to follow that command. The silvers right now, the reflections, the larger portion of it, are all in the control of a man not fit to wield them. Already they've begun to show their greed, their narrow-mindedness, their simple-mindedness. And it will only ever get worse for people of those caliber.
Why don't you just leave the city?
If I leave now, once again I shall break apart. I will die, for better or worse, and the situation will remain unchanged.
So there's something here that sustains you?
Below the city, below us even, there are tunnels throughout originally Lader's mines. A web that is now filled with pipes. Inside of these pipes runs much of the silver. The silver that holds the reflections.
The actions of the others would seem to indicate that they want the blight to spread faster through the deaths that they cause. Why do you think that might be?
They have seen worlds born, ending, born again and ending again. They were never intended to have reflections of their own. Our builders did not know what would come after, if anything at all. So our purpose is purposeless. We were never given an idea of what to do after. So slowly, over time, they've been building their own. I can only imagine it is something of that nature.
I don't know if I can insight check the construct, but I want to insight check a construct.
Go ahead and roll me an insight check.
God damn it. Would have been so funny if she couldn't see me.
24.
My plans are foiled.
Despite her telling you that they are a construct, there is a sort of almost human quality to the way she moves, to the way she speaks. And as far as you can tell, it seems honest.
Let's assume that you're telling the truth and you just want to regain the parts of yourself. Then what?
Well, in the immediate aftermath, I suppose, there would be peace to the city at the very least. The silvers could remain if you need them. I understand they've served as defense against my brothers. But they would no longer be used as a tool of suppression. I would return that tool to the hands of those that originally held it.
Are you familiar with Gathir?
I am unaware of such a name.
So if your brothers were to say that Tolamund will awaken Gathir,
As I said before, I do not remember them. I am only a reflection of myself.
can I insight check this?
I had
Maybe.
left myself words in my refuge explaining my situation. Perhaps they were never intended for myself, but who ever found them after? That is all the knowledge I have. Go ahead and insight check.
That's 17.
Similar to Red's assessment, they seem honest, but you're also not fully understanding what they mean by.
This place that you walk in, where the writing is, what does it look like?
A long hall ending in a semicircle. Two large winged statues hold up its ceiling. A long basin below, long empty, devoid of liquid. At the time I awoke, there was rubble.
Does this sound like it could be the same place that we're supposed to find out of the city, from her description?
It does sound like it would fit the description of one of the refuges.
Okay. If we lend you our aid, would you be able to show us this place?
With ease.
Has anyone Who else has visited you here?
Here?
Who else has visited you since you awoke?
Ah, quite many people. Do you wish to know their names? There are many among them miners, the ones then I found first. Once I had a body to walk in. It is through the mining tunnels that I first discovered the city above, and all that came with it. And it is these miners that believe most closely that the course right now is the one to take.
What about anyone else claiming to be a leader or a wizard or anybody like that?
I'm not quite sure what you mean.
I mean, anyone that would have appeared to have a spell book wanted to inspect your kind of like gestures at her arms and silver nature, I suppose.
I assume I understand of what you speak. I had heard that there had been wizards at one time in the city below. Before the Forge Masters found the city, I awoke after they came. I can only imagine that it was them and the Forge Masters after them who tore me to shreds. The silver, with all of its reflections, holds power. You've seen this power, I imagine. You've seen what happens when the silver decays.
Yes.
You know how the Forge Masters are controlling the silvers?
I know that through the net of pipe, through the flow of silver, is how they extend their commands to the silvers. I do not know how they control the flowing silver, not directly, but I know where from.
How is it that you're not affected by the same control then?
The flow of silver contains the body of the ark, all of these reflections that were mine to hold, to carry on through whatever is come. I am not one of these reflections. I, like the others, have started to develop one of my own, but perhaps they are not quite the same.
So you'd have us go to the place then where a Forge Master or this individual is controlling the silvers.
Not alone, but yes.
And by removing the ability to control the silvers, you believe that you could step in then and take them back? Take your reflections back?
Just
But
so.
leaving the silvers as they are? Walking about, I mean, as they are?
Returning the silvers to myself, I would be able to control them as they have been.
And you'd use them to continue to protect against your brothers?
Unless they are needed for another cause, yes.
You know, you're asking a lot of trust from us in that regard.
I understand.
Do you know of a way to get to this location?
Originally, the plan was to use the mining tunnels themselves. We know that they lead to and from the facility. The pipes do, after all. But recently, another opportunity has opened up. A rift in the city above, closely guarded, but likely less closely than the tunnel.
Have you asked anyone else for help? Aside from the miners? Why us?
The citizens of the lower district are all that I have. They are grateful for what I have given them, hope. You've likely heard it from themselves, just as I have heard from them of another saint in the city. Who else is there to ask?
The rift that you mentioned opening, is that where the explosion happened?
The explosion happened in the city above. It is below there that the rift has opened. A crack in the ground. Small, but significant enough to disrupt their own operation. They've closed it off. They've sent guards. They think they control who knows about it. They are wrong in this assumption.
Yeah.
We have time to think it over and come back to you
Of course.
by tomorrow, or have time to gather, let you know by tomorrow or so, and then have time
The
to...
world will not end until tomorrow
Until tomorrow?
and beyond.
Phew.
What do you think happens if your shard was destroyed?
Well, much like if I were to step outside the city, I would be gone. And the city would remain. The silvers would remain, ever in the hands of whoever controls them now.
Can I insight check her on that statement?
Which one specifically? Whether or not.
I'm trying to see if she's lying that the silvers would remain.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about as well.
Go ahead
I
and
guess
roll me
we
an
could
insight check.
we could roll separately.
Yeah. I don't think I can actually give you
No,
advantage on insight.
it's a 15 for me.
No, it's an 8 for me.
Her demeanor throughout this entire conversation has
Mhm.
not changed. At least in terms of, honesty, there's nothing more that you can currently glean.
You don't
Yeah.
mind time. Let's continue.
Good.
It was a really random question. Is you don't by chance know anything about a garden? Something specifically called the garden?
Perhaps once I have my memory, these things will mean something to me. I have heard from the miners, from the citizens, that believe in a garden that holds their soul.
So you're asking us to trust you quite a lot.
I do.
How do you feel about showing us some trust?
I do.
Okay. Let's say go along with this if you don't mind. And I want to cast polymorph on her. She lets it happen.
As you cast the spell fades.
Constructs. She is what she said she was.
I apologize. Perhaps something else would work better. My kind
Yeah.
are immutable to this kind of change.
That's fair. That was one of the parts of what I was trying to find out.
What about this then? And you guys don't see anything? Well, I will, will step forward, just not aggressively, just step forward closer to her and start holding an amulet close to her face. Keep talking, it's fine.
Right.
What is it that you want me to say?
It doesn't matter. Just keep
Do you
talking.
have a question?
Oh,
Yeah, like how did you first, like how long ago did you first show up here?
You're asking when
What?
I awoke.
Yes.
It has only been 2 years. Passage of time is difficult for me to keep track of. I have not left for the surface in quite some time. I awoke after this world was already affected by the blind. I knew of it as soon as I woke up, as soon as I talked to people.
Alright, alright.
Do you know how to stop the blight?
Not with what I know now. No.
Convenient.
how healthy would you say you feel as compared to me? Just out of curiosity.
This body was once mortally wounded. In a way, she was torn to shreds by my decay, much like I was at the hands of greed. For now it remains stable. My silver flows through its veins. It is devoid of blood, but it is alive.
It's pretty stable, like
If you are asking whether or not I would survive if you were to kill it, then yes, but probably not for very long. My decay would set in
Yeah.
soon.
Alright, this should do it. And I just put back the amulet in my pocket.
You were. Let me check something.
More out of my own curiosity than anything else. Do you mind if I, on the subject of your host having been mortally wounded, with the host's body, do you mind if I take a quick look at it to see how that's working?
How the body works?
How you've managed to transform it into more of a construct versus the living being that it used to be. A
That
simple,
may take some time, but
just a
you may go
simple
ahead.
initial look. Wants to get up in her space and try and like do like a quick medicine check just to see if she can figure anything out in particular.
yeah, roll
Any
me a
of
medicine check
observation.
and give me an arcana check.
Oh, wonderful.
I really want to trust you here. I need to know if you're actually our friend.
As everyone's like poking and prodding at her.
Uh-huh.
The Arcana's 24. The medicine check is. Can't do math. 26.
As you examine her closely, you can tell that there is a certain warmth radiating from it. Her skin is pale, incredibly smooth. And much like it was described earlier, it would appear that there is a heartbeat. There is something pumping through these veins. And if they are to believe, then it is silver instead of blood. But as you examine her closely, there is a sensation of the whole that you've felt in this way somewhat before. At the heart, likely also filled with the silver. It is almost like a concentration of energy that keeps control, that keeps everything else moving. And it reminds you quite closely of the Archon, of the silver sphere that floated around his back.
Ellen will step back. Thank you. I appreciate the invasion of privacy there. I'll kind of glance to Rat, and as long as she catches his eye, I will telepathically say, I don't think there's much more that I can ask her. Obviously, we can have a discussion, but I think my curiosity is currently stated.
Yeah, I just want to know if she's actually our friend.
What's Hux doing during all this, by the way?
Kind of standing in the background, I guess. Like, not sure what to think of it all.
Not a lot of objects in this room to feed the land.
Yeah.
So I kinda
Metal
understood
is his-
only half of what she said. So
Metal isn't his specialty.
Um,
I'm gonna. If the telepathic is still up,
yeah, yeah.
do you think she could withstand a little damage?
You want to collect a piece of her?
No. I mean, if I were to do her a little damage.
She's pretty hardy, to an
What I
extent.
figured.
As long as if you're trying to let her know and seeing if she'll allow the damage to be done. or
Yeah,
if you're-
yeah.
Then, as long as you're not too aggressive, then it. And more if you don't aim for any vitals, or
No,
organs.
yeah, it'll be fine. Okay.
And it
Okay.
should be okay. But if you cause any blood to be spilled, quote unquote, we may run into the issue of the silver being exposed, which then if you get it on you, we don't know if it'll decay or not. So, things to keep in mind.
Yep, should be all internal. So,
oh boy.
if you want to be friends, I've got a absolutely certain way. Are you okay with getting a little bit hurt? I promise I'll heal you.
In what way?
Your mind?
I am unsure whether or not you would be able to.
That would be a great answer as well, I suppose.
I agree.
Very well. I will cast Feeble Mind. I'm assuming she allows a failed intelligence in it.
Just looking up stats and looking up feeble mind.
Yep. The DCs, it would be a 19. Maybe she doesn't have a plus 18? I don't know. Who knows? Because if she's dumb, then she only knows whether we're a friend or a foe. And if she's still friendly, then she's friendly. It's just kind of true.
Well,
This is my thinking.
she fails. The spell takes hold. And you see her collapse onto the ground before your eyes.
Right. What exactly did you?
I shattered her intellect. I'm gonna walk over and kind of like give her a little shake.
You shake, and very limp, very loosely, everything shakes around.
Do you want me to roll the damage?
Go ahead.
It was 12 psychic. Well,
Did you just kill her?
I'm gonna give her some healing. If it works, I give her 8 healing.
Your healing doesn't take hold of him.
Can you undo that?
Yep. Well, I mean, she didn't resist it, so that's cool. I'm gonna get out my greater restoration
Mm-hmm.
goods and some cast greater restoration.
You undo the feeble mind, and her eyes snap open.
Okay. Well,
They flick over to you. Are you satisfied?
yes. Are you? How's your head?
You see a sort of crouch over, get up, holding her. Not too different.
You need any more healing? It didn't work, but I'm willing to try again.
I'm fine.
Okay.
Can I cast mending on her? Because my specific ability heals constructs when I use mending. I don't know if that works or not.
Yeah, sure. You cast mending?
Yeah, I cast mending.
You cast mending, and you very much feel the spell take hold. You don't really see a physical effect of it, but she gives you a curt nod.
Well, I'm satisfied. Nice to be friends. I don't like all that my hands.
Let me see. I don't know if it matters at all. There's some. I have to find a place where mending is, where I can use it to heal. But
Yeah,
I don't know if
think
you.
I remember that being a thing.
I can't. I know it's technically there's supposed to be dice thing where I can roll, but I don't know if you need to know the healing that it would. Give.
No, not really.
Okay.
It doesn't matter too much.
I've never used that.
Because wind can't be healed by it.
Right.
It's a different kind
The
of
only one who I
construct.
can use it on technically would be Kyan, but Kieran. My brain
Yeah.
just fizzed out on Kieran. But I don't normally put him in a situation where it's like, hey, Beggar,
Mhm.
do damage to my little porous robot.
There is time for you to change your mind. There are people that need to get ready. I had not planned to move this soon.
That's fine.
A week's time, I would send for you.
Do you want our answer before then, or we could? No.
You can give it to me then.
All right.
Do you sleep?
I have no need to.
Okay. We will send someone to the foundry then, I suppose, if we need to contact you.
As long as there are citizens for you to find, you will reach me eventually.
Good. Well, this has been weird. You want to shake hands and say have a nice day, or are you?
Would that make you feel better?
Yeah.
She holds out her hand.
All right. Yeah. Have a nice day. Bye.
The silver, as you touch it, is strangely warm to the. It's like shaking just a human's hand, even though you can clearly see that metallic.
I don't know if
And
this actually makes me feel better.
He shakes your hand and you turn to leave. And
lied.
that is where we end today's session.
FYI,
There's
Beggar,
no
I
point.
lied. It's Cure Wounds. My Cure Wounds heals construct.
Right. Okay.
That's what it was. I was like, I knew there was
still,
something. Yeah. So I.
Yeah.
Well, I got her voice, I guess.
Yeah, it's good too, because I'm losing mine.
Thank
So
you,
much
Beggar.
fun.
Yeah,
Thank you, Begar.
Thank you guys for session.
Yeah.